Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your training program, nutritional plan, supplements you're currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, how long should you rest a body part before training it again? Good question. Studies show that a body part usually takes about 72 hours to recover after training it. However, what I typically do with my clients is I like to train one body part, one muscle group once a week and give it 7 full days to recover. The reason I like that is because, as many people know, especially those that train with me, whether in-house or online, is I'm a firm believer in using high volume training. So for example, if you're training chest on a Monday and you're doing a workout with me, we're going to do anywhere from 48 to 52 sets for that chest workout. So that's a lot of volume, right? And I find that works best for natural lifters, not enhanced lifters. So people who are not using anabolic steroids. I feel that if you train with that much volume, your body does need a good 7 days to recover from that muscle group. You have to remember too, when you are training a muscle group like chest, for example, you can't help but use your shoulders, your anterior deltoids in the press, your triceps. So these are what we call your synergist muscles. They assist in the pressing motion. Just like if you're training back, your biceps are going to help when it comes to rows and pull downs. You can't turn them off completely. So they are being worked indirectly. So this is why I don't recommend training biceps twice a week or triceps twice a week, because you are already training those muscle groups indirectly when you do exercises for your chest, back, and shoulders. Okay. So I find that works best for most people. So if we train chest, like I said, on a Monday, we won't train it again till the following Monday. And because we're using so much volume in these workouts, there's no need to, right? So I'm not a firm believer in doing 3 or 4 full body workouts a week. I find that to be overtraining and you risk injury. Okay. So I've talked about this in the past, how I don't really believe in overtraining unless you're doing the same shit over and over again. So if you are bench pressing 3 times a week, yeah, I think that's overtraining. I think you're actually risking a pectoralis tear in either pec major or pec minor, right? If you're squatting 3 times a week, same thing. I completely believe that you could risk tearing a quadricep, right? Messing up your patella or your meniscus. So it's important to train smart and approach each workout methodically. So even though studies show that it takes 72 hours for a muscle to fully recover, if you're using high volume in your workouts, which I strongly advise you to do to avoid injury, in my opinion, it's best to rest it a full 7 days. Okay. Especially if you are natural, you're not enhanced, you're not using steroids. Okay. So your recovery is not going to be as quickly as someone who is enhanced. So these are all factors to take into consideration. So where I stand on that, one muscle group once a week, chest on a Monday, back on a Tuesday, shoulders on a Wednesday, arms on a Thursday, and then legs on a Friday, and take Saturday, Sunday off, and then repeat the cycle all over again. High volume, doesn't have to be 48 to 52 sets like I do with my clients. You could do a 24 to 30 sets. I still think that's high volume as well. Doesn't need to be ridiculously heavy weight, okay? Just a weight that is moderately heavy, that is intense, and that you can get anywhere from 10 to 15 reps with, right? Throw in your drop sets, throw in your supersets, throw in your circuit training. The goal is to avoid injury, preserve your joints and your tendons, and stimulate your muscle bellies. Get in and out of the gym quickly, 45 minutes to 60 minutes max. There's no reason for you to be in the gym for 2 hours. Okay? If you're in the gym for 2 hours, you're not training hard enough, period. Because if you're training with the utmost amount of intensity, 45 to 60 minutes is more than enough. So to answer that question, I would train a muscle group once each week in a 7-day rotation. All right, next question. Nick, why do I sweat like crazy during my leg workouts, but don't sweat as much when training other muscle groups? You're not training your other muscle groups hard enough. No, I mean, a lot of people, when they train legs, they do sweat a lot, right? I've talked about this in the past, how for my own leg workouts, I get severe anxiety before I train legs. My theory behind why people tend to sweat more during workouts where they're training like their legs or their back is because these are larger muscle groups. So in order to train these muscle groups, you have to exert more energy. Well, if you exert more energy, there's a very good chance that you're most likely going to sweat more, right? Some people sweat more than others too, right? Some people have more sweat glands, so they sweat more than others. But that's pretty common for a lot of people that they find the leg workouts to be a little bit more challenging than, let's say, an arm workout. I mean, you can still train your arms with intensity, but at the end of the day, you're just training your biceps and triceps. They're small muscle groups. So you're not going to exert as much energy doing dumbbell curls than you're going to exert doing a barbell back squat, right? So that's the reason why I find most people tend to sweat more during leg workouts. I know a lot of my clients who had the Apple Watches, whenever they're doing legs with me, they usually burn about an extra 200-300 calories in comparison to, like, say, a chest workout or a shoulder workout. So the two workouts I find usually people find the most challenging are leg workouts and back workouts. But again, those are two large muscle groups, especially back. Back is the largest muscle group in the human body. A lot of people think it's legs, but it's actually your back. So chances are, if you're training your back intensely, you're going to notice on that day you sweat a lot as well. Okay. So yeah, you're most likely going to be burning more calories, going to exert more energy. You'll probably feel it too on leg days after you've trained legs, a few hours after that, you're actually more hungry as well. Okay. So whenever you train big, larger muscle groups, I notice that for myself, like the days I train legs, after the leg workout is done, I'm usually like starving for the rest of the day. Okay. Because you do exert a lot of energy. So just keep training your upper body though with intensity too. Don't go light on that. But I don't think you'll ever exert yourself as much on any other muscle group as you will when it comes to legs and back. It just won't happen. All right. Okay, next question. Nick, do you recommend weighing your meat raw or cooked on your mass gaining plan? Regardless if it's a mass gaining plan or a cutting program, I would recommend you always weigh your meat cooked. Okay. And the only reason I recommend that, it's so much easier, especially if you cook in bulk. So, for example, like for me, I'll cook 2 big packs of chicken at one time from Costco, right? And there's usually about 15 chicken breasts in each pack. So I'm cooking 30 chicken breasts at one time. Once all that chicken is cooked, takes about 45 minutes to an hour. I take it out of the oven, I start chopping it all up, and I just throw it on my scale with each piece of Tupperware and then move on. It's much easier. Okay? It's like a factory assembly line. It's just very easy to cook in bulk, saves time as opposed to weighing your meat and then cooking it's too much. Also, don't forget that when you do cook meat, you're going to lose some water weight too, right? So if you, let's say, weigh a raw piece of chicken breast and let's say it weighs 9 ounces, well, after that same piece of chicken breast is cooked, if you put that back on a scale, you'll notice it's going to be about 8 ounces. It's going to lose 1 whole ounce, okay, because it's losing fluid when you cook it. Okay, so that's another reason why I wouldn't recommend weighing your meats raw. Okay, so generally speaking, when it comes to meats, I do recommend weighing them after they're cooked. For anything raw, like your oats, if I say 1/3 of a cup of oats, I do recommend just measuring that raw. That's much easier than measuring it cooked, right? Things like rice, I do recommend measuring once it's cooked. Yams, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, I recommend weighing those as well after they're cooked, not before. Okay. It's just easier. Really, it just comes down to it's more practical, it's more convenient. And if you are cooking in bulk, which you should be cooking in bulk if you're doing meal prep for the week, it's just easier, right? So that's why I recommend that. Okay. And it's also going to be more accurate when it comes to your meats, because as I said, when you cook your meat, you're actually going to lose a little bit of water weight. So if you want to get the most accuracy out of your protein grams and carbohydrates and fats, I recommend weighing your meats once they're cooked, not before they're cooked. Okay. Nick, is canned tuna an okay protein source to use in my diet? Yeah, I mean, canned tuna is fine. It's really just protein. And if you're working with a budget, canned tuna is great. It's also super convenient too, right? Like if you're on the go, just grab a piece of canned tuna, open it with can opener, and then like pop it in your bag and go. You can mix it with some rice. Super easy, right? Doesn't taste the best. I mean, when I used to work on somewhat of a budget when I was prepping for bodybuilding shows, canned tuna was a staple in my diet. It was cheap. It was easy. It was already made. I just had to open the can and mix it in with my rice or my yams. And I mean, it was easy to digest. You just want to make sure when you are consuming canned tuna that you get the canned tuna that's packed in water, not oil. Okay, you don't need the one that's packed in oil. It's going to contain extra fat and it's not good fat. So you remember, tuna is what we call a lean protein source. So in order to keep it a lean protein source, you want to make sure that you are buying the canned tuna that's packed in water. My preference is chunk light tuna. Okay, I find that to be really good. So you can, it depends on the type of tuna you like. I mean, I like albacore tuna, but it's really up to you. As long as you are getting the canned tuna that's packed in water, but usually it's about 25 to 30 grams for that one can. So it's an excellent protein source. It's cost effective. So if you are on a budget, it's easy to, budget into that into your diet for a high protein source. It's a lot cheaper than if you were to go buy cod, for example, or even chicken breasts or turkey breasts. So it's a much cheaper source of protein, right? God, it's even cheaper than whey protein powder. So I would recommend just make sure that when you purchase tuna, make sure you purchase the tuna packed in water and not oil. All right. Okay, next question. Nick, I'm consistently losing about 2 pounds a week and have lost a total of 28 pounds since February. My question is, at what point should I try to stop losing weight and maintain my physique? Well, instead of focusing on a scale, what you should be looking at is A, how you look, and B, how you feel. So if you're losing 2 pounds a week and you still have a bit of a gut, keep going, right? If you take your shirt off and you're like, I feel like I still have some body fat. I'm not happy with the way I look. Keep going, right? It's not like you're going to wake up one day and say, oh my God, I lost all this muscle. It's the same thing I tell people I train, especially women, when they say, I don't want to get big. I'm like, you're not going to wake up one day and go, oh my God, I'm huge. It doesn't happen like that. Okay. So it's a gradual process. So I tell you, I mean, I'm not working with you, so I don't know what your physique looks like. But what I always tell clients is don't focus on a number on a scale because that number can mess your head up. Okay. If you're always focused on that one number, you don't know if you say, well, you want to get down to 180 pounds, you don't know what 180 pounds is going to look like. Okay. Especially if you've been weight training for the past 2 or 3 years. When you were, let's say, in your 20s and you're 180 pounds, like, yeah, I look good at that weight. 180 pounds might look very different now that you're older and that you might have more muscle mass if you have been training with weights. So this is why I tell people don't pick a weight on the scale. What you should really be going by is how you look and how you feel. Okay, so if you feel like, hey, I can keep going down and I don't feel like this diet is difficult to maintain, this lifestyle is not difficult to sustain, I can keep losing weight 2 pounds a week, which in my opinion is a good amount of weight to lose. If you're losing more than that, unless you're incredibly overweight, 2 pounds is a good number because then you can ensure the weight you are losing is fat and not muscle. Okay, so that's why we always tell people try to aim for that 1.5 to 2 pounds a week. If you're losing more than that, there's a good chance you're losing muscle and water. Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't recommend just stopping because, oh, I hit my weight loss goal. I'd say, hey, you know what? I think I can probably go down a few more pounds because I am carrying a little bit of body fat in my love handles, or I have some body fat in my gut, my butt, my thighs. So that's what I would be paying attention to: how you look, how you feel, how your clothes fit, as opposed to just the number on the scale. Okay, because that number on the scale can really mess you up. And I tell people that who are trying to lose weight all the time. I'm like, don't get too focused on that number. Same thing I tell my guys who are trying to gain weight. I'm like, they tell me I want to be 230 by summer. I'm like, you don't know what 230 is going to look like. Is 230 going to look sloppy, or is 230 going to look like solid, lean, dense muscle? Okay. So it's all about quality, not quantity. Okay. That's very important to remember. So I say keep going as long as it's the diet, the plan that you're following is sustainable. You're not doing like 2 hours of cardio a day and operating on 1,500 calories a day. Whatever you're doing, if it's working and you're like, you know what, I can keep doing this, I feel great, keep doing it. Don't stop. Okay. Don't take your foot off the gas. Once you feel like, wow, you know what, I actually like the way I look now, I like the way I feel, then you can back off a little bit and go into somewhat of a maintenance program. But I always tell clients, be very careful with maintenance programs because I've seen people try to maintain and they start to go backwards. So I always tell people, try to keep your foot on that gas. You don't have to be going 100 miles an hour every single minute of the day, but you don't want to be stopped either, right? You want to just keep your foot hovering over that gas pedal the entire time. Okay. Always stay hungry to get results. Okay. That's my recommendation. Okay. Next question. Nick, how do you stay on top of your diet if you're traveling and you're unable to prepare your own food? I know it's difficult and I get this question a lot, but it can be done. Okay. So one thing I've done is, especially if I'm traveling within Canada, I usually just pack my meals. If I'm going away for like 2 or 3 days, I'll pack my meals with me. That's not too hard, right? It's like, 15 meals, 5 meals a day. That's pretty simple. Now, if you're traveling internationally and you're going away for a longer period of time, well, now you got to get a little bit more creative, right? If you're staying in a hotel, my recommendation is get a hotel with a fridge. If you can, get a hotel with a kitchen so you can cook your own meals. You can go to the grocery store and cook your own meals. Again, if you don't have access to a kitchen in your hotel suite, then you've got to find a restaurant that can make your meals the way you want them. That's actually not that difficult to do. Here in Vancouver, we've got places like Cactus Club, Earl's. I've gone to places like that numerous times over the years, and I've just asked, can you guys just give me a grilled chicken breast with some asparagus? Done. Not difficult, right? A lot of places like the Keg, for example, they're doing cauliflower rice now. So a lot of these restaurants are now making healthier options because they see that's the way society is going. A lot of people, when they do go out, they do want to eat somewhat healthier meals. So they want healthier options. So lucky for us that there's actually more healthy options available now than there was, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. You just have to be able to read the menu and say, well, they're offering a chicken breast here. Is there any way you guys can just avoid the oil, avoid the sauces, and just give me a chicken breast? Yeah, it might not taste as good, but it can still co-align with your diet, right? So those are type of restaurants that I would be looking for. Usually chain restaurants, you can do it. It's one less step for the kitchen. Okay. So a lot of people say, well, I don't want to modify foods. I don't want to be a pain in the ass. I worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years. And I can tell you right now, those modifications take nothing. It's actually easier for the kitchen. Okay. You just want a plain chicken breast, very simple to do. Okay. I've done that in places where they'll have beef burgers. So I'm like, well, can I just get the beef patty without the bun? And instead of potatoes, I'll usually just go for veg. Done. Simple. Okay. So look for healthier options. Look for foods that are similar to your plan. So if there's nothing available, for example, but you know you have tuna on your plan, right? Like that person who asked about the canned tuna, your restaurant, get a tuna poke bowl, right? I mean, there's options that you can do. Tuna's on your plan. Well, there it is. Try to, again, avoid the sauces. Ask to make sure if there's any condiments on the side. If there's things like mangoes or anything like this, try to omit them. You don't want anything that's too high in sugar, right? So that's my recommendation. But if you can, and you're staying in a hotel or an Airbnb, make sure you have a kitchen. And then you can just go to the local grocery store and pack your own and cook your own food. Okay. I did that for years when I used to compete and I would stay at hotels. Always make sure I got a hotel with a kitchen inside so I actually could cook my meals in the hotel. Okay. So that's my recommendation. And if you can't do that, you just have to look outside the box and go to these restaurants and say, okay, how can they modify this for me? And most restaurants will be able to. Okay. Especially the good ones. So if you're going to fast food places like McDonald's, no. But most restaurants, if you're paying like 30 or 40 bucks for a meal, they'll modify it for you. It's not a big deal. Okay. Uh, okay. Nick, what do you think about lifting weights in the sauna? Does it help burn more calories? I've seen people do this, and honestly, it's stupid. Don't do this. Okay. Do not lift weights in the sauna. Okay. The only energy you're going to exert, yes, you're going to exert more energy, I guess, in a sense, but you also risk passing out. And the reason why you're sweating more is because you're working out in a sauna. So the only weight you're losing is water weight. Okay. Just because you sweat more doesn't necessarily mean that you're burning more fat. Like in a sense, you might be burning more calories, but you're not necessarily burning more fat. You're just exerting more energy. So lifting weights in a sauna is a stupid thing to do. Do not do that. I've seen people, and even in my home building here, I've seen people doing that. I'm just like, they're stupid. Not only is it not going to do anything as far as building muscle, you're actually going to risk hurting yourself. I mean, if you're really pushing yourself with weights in a sauna, you risk passing out. You hit your head, you pass out, not a good idea. So don't lift weights in the sauna. I promise you, the only weight that you're losing there is just water weight. Okay. You're not losing any fat. You might exert some extra energy, but at what cost? Just work out in the gym. That's why gyms are there, to work out. Okay. You don't need to go into a sauna. Okay. It's not necessary. Okay. The same thing with hot yoga. I don't have anything wrong with hot yoga. I don't have anything against hot yoga, but people always tell me, oh, it's a great workout. I'm burning so many calories. I feel so much lighter after. I'm like, well, you feel lighter because you've lost water weight. You've sweat more. But once you start drinking that water, you're going to put that fluid back into your body. The weight's going to come back on. Okay. So in my opinion, what hot yoga is good for, your joints and your ligaments and your tendons. It's excellent for that, right? The heat's excellent for that. So I'm not saying avoid the heat. I'm saying don't lift weights in the heat. Okay. So that's a bad idea. So don't do that. It's stupid shit. I don't even know where that came from, but I mean, it's monkey see, monkey do. I've seen people do that over the years. As I said, I've seen people do that in my home gym, in the sauna in my home building. I don't say anything to them, but I'm just like, you're just wasting your time. Lift weights in the gym, not the sauna. Okay. Nick, how do you recommend your clients reward themselves if they have stayed on track with their workouts and diet for weeks on end? Um, that's really up to the individual, but one thing I can tell you is do not reward yourself with food. Okay. And the reason I suggest people do not reward themselves with food is because, well, A, you're not a dog, right? So when a dog does something good, what do? We reward them with a treat, right? Well, do you want to be a dog? Do you want to reward yourself with food? No. So my recommendation is, let's say you're at the gym every day for 30 days, or you're training as consistently, your diet's dialed in, you've lost 4 or 5 pounds of body fat, you're putting on muscle, go buy yourself a new shirt or a new dress or a new pair of jeans, right? So reward yourself that way, right? Find that extra motivation. Say if you're a guy and you've always wanted to fit into a size 32 jeans, but you've always been a size 36, and now your waist has gone down, go buy yourself that pair of 32 jeans. Not only is that a good reward, it'll actually keep you on track because you don't want to go back to being a size 36 again, right? So that's how I recommend people reward themselves, is reward themselves with something that's actually going to keep you motivated. So it doesn't have to be clothes, right? Could be anything. It could be like you want to buy something new for your house. Maybe you've been trying to save up for a new TV, right? It could be something that you just want to add more value to your home. Maybe you want to do a renovation project, right? So say, you know what, if I'm really dialed in on my fitness for the next few months, I'm going to spend a little bit of extra money on myself or my home, or maybe take a trip, right? But I wouldn't reward myself with food. Okay, that's not a good idea. So I always tell clients, clothes, vacation, maybe a home renovation, something for your home. It could be anything, a new appliance. Maybe you want to get yourself a new grill for when you cook your chicken breasts, a new air fryer, something like that, right? So something that will continue to keep you motivated along the way. So that's what I usually recommend to people. And I don't see anything wrong with rewarding yourself every once in a while, but you have to remember too, you're doing this for yourself. You're not doing this for anyone else. So for me personally, I don't reward myself and say, oh, good job, I worked out today. I'm like, no, it's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm looking after myself, right? I'm taking responsibility for my health and my wellness. So there's really no reason for me to reward myself for that. But I understand why some people like to have somewhat of reward because it holds them accountable and it's something to look forward to. So I'm not saying don't reward yourself, but at the same time, I'm saying be realistic with your expectations, manage your expectations. And if you do reward yourself, just make sure that it's something that's going to help you stay consistent and motivated to continue along and not just stop, right? Because if you reward yourself with a big pizza and a night out drinking, I could turn into a hangover the next day and then you're missing 2 or 3 days at the gym. So that's not a good way to reward yourself. So that's why I don't recommend rewarding yourself with food. Choose something else, vacation, new wardrobe, something for the house, a new appliance that helps you with your meal prep, something like that, okay? And that's a great reward system. Okay, 2 more questions. Okay, Nick, please remind me as to why you don't recommend shrugs when it comes to building your traps. I remember you had said not to do them, but I cannot remember why. Yeah, so the reason I'm not a big fan of shrugs, whether it be dumbbell shrugs or barbell shrugs, is because I find it puts a lot of unnecessary strain on the neck erectors. The range of motion is so limited. When you do a shrug, all you're doing is you're moving your shoulders or your traps up and down, right? Yes, you are contracting your traps to a degree, but I feel that it puts unnecessary strain on your neck erectors. So instead of doing barbell shrugs or dumbbell shrugs, my recommendation is to do upright rows. And I always advise clients to do upright rows with a cable as opposed to a free weight. The reason why is because a cable allows you to stay in line with a very, very swift, easy range of motion. If you're doing free weights and you're tired, there's a very good chance that you could pull a bar or pull a dumbbell in a misalign the shoulder. And you gotta be very careful with the shoulder. You hear people dislocating their shoulders all the time. The shoulders are very fragile muscle group. They're a very small muscle group. So it's probably one of the most common injuries next to back injuries that I see, okay? Torn shoulders, people have a micro tear or a full-on tear or dislocation. It's very common. So you have to be very careful with that area. And the same thing with your neck. You have to be so careful with your neck. I know a lot of people who have trouble with their neck, especially in like the C5, C7 area. So you want to keep as much strain off that area as possible. So this is why I recommend people avoid shrugs, okay? And one more thing too is because shrugs do put a lot of strain on the neck, if you're a guy and you're doing shrugs, you're going to notice that your neck starts to grow out. I personally never like that look. I don't want to have a thick neck. I don't think it's an attractive look on men. I think it's kind of a gross look. So that's another reason that I don't advise. Well, you don't really see women doing shrugs, but I advise the guys not to do shrugs, okay? For that reason too, because aesthetically, it doesn't look good. You can build your traps doing upright rows. I like to use the rope, attach it to a cable, and honestly, I find that works great. I've never had anyone injure themselves doing it. You definitely feel it in your traps and your rhomboids and your scapula where you should be feeling it, and you're going to stimulate proper muscle growth with avoiding injury. All right, last question. Nick, how often do you advise taking a week off from the gym? when you need it. There's no scheduled rest week. Okay. And this is one thing I was talking about this with a client actually last week. He says it's probably good to give the body a week off of rest. So I'm like, if you need it, but if you don't need it, why take it? I talked about in the past how earlier this year I went for like 90 days in a row at the gym without a break. I felt great, but I didn't feel overtrained. I was training hard, but I was training a different muscle group every day. Okay, so I was training very smart, very intelligently in the gym. I approached each workout very methodically, and I didn't have any injuries whatsoever. And I felt great, lots of energy, slept really well. Okay, the reason I took the day off after I broke that 90-day was just because I had too many meetings and sessions that day. That was it. That was my only reason. So take the break if you need the break. But I think so many people are so concerned about overtraining, and I've yet to meet anyone who's overtrained. Okay. People who are at risk at overtraining are people like athletes, like say professional athletes. Say, take a hockey player who plays 82 games a year in the NHL. That's not even including playoffs. They're doing the same motion over and over again, right? Whether it be in the game itself or at practice. So it's good for them to take a 2-3 month break during the off season in the summer and not do that. Yes, they can work on dry land training. They can do some weight training. They can do something opposite or some light cardiovascular training on the ice. But chances are they're not going to be playing full on intense hockey games in the summer because they need to rest those muscle groups. And that's why you see a lot of times professional athletes get injured because they're doing repetitive motions again and again. It would be like going to the gym and doing a chest workout day in and day out, bench pressing every day. If you bench press every day for a year, well, what's going to happen? You're not going to grow your chest. You're most likely going to have an injury because your muscles can't recover. It goes back to that 72 hours to recover. So professional athletes don't really have 72 hours to recover. They have a game, let's say on Monday. Sometimes they get a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday game. They'll have another game on Thursday. So they're doing the same motion over and over again for a longer period of time. So that's why you get a lot of athletes who do get injured, right? So in my opinion, people who are just going to the gym and are not professional athletes and are just working out, 3 or 4 times a week, maybe 5 times a week, you don't need to take a week off. I mean, unless you truly feel that you're just so sore and that you're just fatigued and you're burnt out, by all means, take it. But I always tell clients it's usually more mental burnout than physical burnout. Okay. Because if you are putting together a well-structured, balanced training program, you shouldn't be physically exhausted. Okay. You should be like, oh, I trained legs on Thursday and I don't have to train them again until next Thursday. So again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier at the beginning of this episode was training one muscle group per week. Okay. And that way you do get a whole week of recovery. So if you're training with intelligence and you're approaching each workout methodically and you're approaching each training session with intelligence, you're not going to burn out. Okay. And if you need a break, take a break, but listen to your body. Don't just say, well, I've been training for 6 months, so I'm going to take a break a week from the gym. Like, you might not need that week. You might feel like your workouts actually add more value to your life because your workouts give you more energy. I know that once I work out, I actually have more energy throughout my day, not less. I feel better, right? I feel re-energized. So a workout actually helps re-energize me. It doesn't drag me down. Okay, it gets my appetite going. So now I'm eating more cleanly. I'm more consistent and more motivated to stay clean in my diet after a training session as well. Okay. It's just like I've done something good for my body. So I want to continue this process for the remainder of the day. I don't want to go to the gym and then go to the bar right afterwards, So it just motivates you to stay on track for the remainder of the day as well. So take the break if you need a break, but I don't advise you just to take a week off because you're like, well, I should probably take a week off because I've been training for the last 3 or 4 months. No, it doesn't work like that. Take the time off if you feel you need the time off. If you don't need the time off, don't take it. Okay. Keep going. You're not going to overtrain as long as you're putting together a well-structured, balanced training program. I promise you. I've yet to see anyone overtrain. I haven't seen it. In all my years of working with people, I've yet to see that. What I have seen is a lot of people undertraining. Okay. So train smart. Okay. Approach each workout with intelligence and you should be fine. You won't need that week off. Anyway, this episode will be going up on Monday, June the 3rd. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your training program, nutritional plan, supplement protocol, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. I want to thank everyone for watching this week's No Filter Q&A. Thank you for supporting both my in-house and online training businesses. I really appreciate all the support, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.